Deep beneath the frozen heart of Siberia, buried under layers of ancient coal tens of meters below the surface, a strange discovery sent shockwaves through an entire village. But what left Soviet scientists and intelligence officials truly speechless was the sarcophagus's estimated age, over 800 million years old, predating even the age of the dinosaurs. So, what exactly lay inside this impossible tomb? And could this discovery force us to rewrite everything we thought we knew about human history? So fasten your seatbelt as we dive into today's mystery. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like, and subscribe before this video ends. On an autumn morning, September 5th, 1969, in a remote village called Rzhavchik, tucked deep within the Siberian expanse of the former Soviet Union, a single event unfolded that would unsettle anyone who heard of it. For the local villagers, it was just another ordinary workday. But for history, it marked a moment when something emerged, something that modern humanity had never dared to imagine. Inside an old coal mine, more than 70 meters beneath the surface, a group of miners toiled in the dark, surrounded by rock dust and the dim rhythm of their labor. The steady clinks of pickaxes striking stone echoed in repetition. But then, a different sound pierced through that monotony. One of the miners stopped. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he bent down and began brushing away the loose dirt around the spot he had just struck. Not long after, a smooth surface began to emerge. Not coal, not natural rock, but something else entirely. It appeared to be a crafted material, deliberately shaped by some unknown hand. With the help of his fellow workers, they kept digging into the strange wall until a hollow space revealed itself. The chamber bore no trace of prior human presence. The air within was thick, frigid, and saturated with a scent that defied explanation. When their flashlights cast beams across the stone walls, the men froze in silence at the surreal scene now laid bare before them. A sarcophagus of marble, nearly 3 meters in length and about 1 meter high, lay before them, its intricate carvings so precise that none could believe it was the product of human hands from the industrial age. The head of the mine immediately notified local authorities, but for the miners, imagination had already slipped beyond restraint. Some whispered of ancient treasure or a long-buried royal relic. Others feared their discovery would be seized by the state without so much as an explanation. Caught between excitement and apprehension, a spontaneous decision was made. They would open the sarcophagus themselves, without waiting for orders from above. When the marble lid of the sarcophagus was finally opened, the entire space seemed to fall silent in a moment that defied description. The miners stood frozen, overwhelmed by the scene before them. Inside the sarcophagus lay a young woman, motionless in a state of perfect preservation, as if she had only just drifted off into a short slumber. Her beauty did not conform to modern standards, but instead radiated an ancient, pure, and almost mythical allure. Her skin was impossibly pale, whiter than even those afflicted with albinism, and flawlessly smooth without a single blemish. Her long, wavy hair, a deep shade of brown, cascaded gently across her shoulders and down her back. It was a form of beauty that could not be compared to any known ideal of contemporary humanity. But what truly left them breathless was not just her appearance, it was the flawless condition of her body. She was submerged in a transparent pink liquid which enveloped her form like a protective veil. Also resting within the sarcophagus, beside her head, was a mysterious object, a small black metal box, sleek and compact, bearing no recognizable marks of any known technology. At the time, in 1969, no one could fathom what function this device might serve. But many years later, as smartphones became a reality, those who had once witnessed this discovery began to realize the object bore an uncanny resemblance in size and shape to a high-tech communication device. The dress the woman wore was made of an extremely delicate white fabric, nearly transparent, yet astonishingly, it had not decayed over time. Some researchers later asserted that they could not identify any technique or material capable of replicating such fabric. Faced with the lifelike appearance of the woman and the inexplicable elements surrounding her, the villagers began to refer to her with a name both reverent and noble. Princess Taisun, drawn from the name of the Taisel district where the sarcophagus had been unearthed. No one knew who she was, where she came from, or to which era she belonged, but all were in agreement. She was not an ordinary figure from human history. Within just a few days, the entire area surrounding the mine was placed under strict lockdown. A red military helicopter carrying senior Soviet officials descended on the site as if a full-scale military operation were underway. The villagers were ordered to leave the scene immediately. Warnings were issued about an unidentified biological threat. The miners who had seen the body inside the sarcophagus were summoned for private interviews, and no one ever learned what they had been told, or what they had revealed. Meanwhile, efforts to extract the sarcophagus from the earth began at an accelerated pace, but then came a significant obstacle. The sarcophagus was heavier than anything they had ever dealt with. No available equipment, including the helicopter, was capable of lifting the massive marble block, especially with the quantity of pink liquid still encasing the body inside. The only viable solution was to remove the liquid entirely and store it in specialized containment barrels for separate transport. And it was at that precise moment, when the pink liquid was slowly siphoned out drop by drop, that the transformation began. The flawless white skin of the woman started to change color. Within minutes, that pale radiance turned to a dull gray, then darkened further until her body appeared bluish and lifeless. The vibrant sense of presence that had once stunned everyone was gone. The sarcophagus was then transported to the city of Novosibirsk for further analysis, along with the barrels containing the strange pink fluid. A team of the Soviet Union's top scientists was assembled to analyze the woman and the strange pink liquid. Among them was a professor from the Institute of Paleontology, who would later confess that, in all his years of research, he had never encountered anything remotely like this. Yet what shocked the scientists most was not the state of the body, but the results of the dating process. Radiocarbon analysis yielded no usable data. Samples taken from the fabric of her dress, from the pink liquid, and even from the marble surrounding the body all lay beyond the measurable limits of conventional testing. The returned values were so extraordinarily high that they fell completely outside the operational range of their equipment. The scientists were forced to turn to more advanced techniques, including geological layer analysis from the site where the sarcophagus had been found, molecular readings of the liquid, and isotopic evaluation using rarer radioactive elements. After weeks of testing and cross-referencing data, the final result left the scientific community stunned. The geological age of the coal layer from which the sarcophagus had been unearthed was estimated at roughly 800 million years. That figure did not just surpass all of human history, it predated the existence of any known complex life on Earth. Even the first dinosaurs only emerged around 230 million years ago. If this conclusion was accurate, then the woman in the sarcophagus could not possibly belong to any historical timeline we've ever understood. Immediately, existential questions erupted within the scientific community. Was this proof of an advanced prehistoric civilization that existed long before the Cambrian period? Or was she perhaps an extraterrestrial being? If the discovery of the marble sarcophagus and the body of the mysterious woman had left the village of Rzhavchik stunned, then what followed in the months and years after would plunge it into fear and confusion. The miner who first uncovered the sarcophagus died in what was officially deemed a bizarre traffic accident. Known to be a careful and responsible man with no history of drinking, the investigation report nonetheless claimed he had been driving his motorcycle under the influence when he collided with a truck on a village road. His family rejected this explanation entirely. They said he had changed after returning from the mine, startling awake in the middle of the night, gripped by a fear he couldn't put into words. But that was only the beginning of what would become a long string of tragedies. Just weeks later, another miner suddenly vanished in the forest. His body was found on the riverbank, curled in on itself as if from acute hypothermia, despite the weather being far from cold that day. Whispers began to circulate among the villagers. The curse of the sarcophagus, they called it. And each passing year seemed to lend credence to that belief, as more people connected to the 1969 incident met with untimely ends. By 1973, just 4 years after the discovery, the Soviet military unexpectedly descended upon Tysel district. They sealed off the entire forest surrounding the old coal mine with 3 rings of steel security, erected checkpoints on every trail, and strictly forbade locals from entering the newly declared restricted zone. Only years later, through rare and fragmented testimonies, did pieces of the truth begin to emerge. A geologist who had participated in the early analysis of the so-called princess would later recount that during the summer of that same year, Soviet special forces discovered 2 more sarcophagi near a lake a few kilometers from the original mine site. Both were carved from white marble, identical in design to the first, and each contained a body preserved in the same strange pink liquid, just as perfectly intact, just as otherworldly. Everyone involved in the excavation or subsequent study of these sarcophagi was forced to sign non-disclosure agreements. Some were abruptly transferred to distant posts. Others simply disappeared. The research documents, scientific reports, and even physical samples of the pink preservation fluid vanished from national archives as if they had never existed. Some of the scientists who once had access to the case, though none dared speak publicly, believed that the pink liquid within the sarcophagus might have been a form of ultra-advanced biological preservation fluid. It was something far beyond the reach of current technology. Not only did it keep cells intact for millions of years, but it also preserved the appearance, elasticity of the skin, the sheen of hair, and even the structure of soft tissue. This led many to lean toward the theory that the Tsoul princess came from a civilization that once existed on Earth, only to vanish mysteriously before recorded history ever began. Supporters of this theory have labeled it a pre-human civilization, one that might have thrived hundreds of millions of years ago, even before the age of the dinosaurs. They argue that there may once have been a society with scientific and technological capabilities far beyond what we possess today. A more radical theory suggested that the princess did not come from Earth at all. Her pearl-white skin was believed to be an adaptive response to a world with lower light levels, perhaps a planet farther from its sun. The sarcophagus and the preservation fluid, then, might not be ancient terrestrial artifacts at all, but rather products of extraterrestrial technology. This theory gained further traction when compared to the controversial yet increasingly discussed ancient astronaut hypothesis. According to this line of thought, the Tsoul princess could have been a member of an interstellar expedition, someone who crash-landed on this planet during a disaster whose cause remains unknown. Her sarcophagus, in this view, was a kind of cryogenic chamber where time was nearly frozen to sustain life indefinitely. But if that were true, one question remains unanswered. Why has she not awakened? Today, near the site of the old coal mine, a simple granite memorial stone has been quietly erected. Etched into its face are the words, "In 1969, at this site, a young woman was discovered lying within a marble sarcophagus, dated to hundreds of millions of years ago." If today's story made you pause, even for a moment, to reflect on the mysteries that lie beyond human understanding, don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to keep following us on this journey through forgotten history and untold stories, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll see you in the next video.